This episode is sponsored by Southern Utah Safe and Vault. It's one-stop shop, buy, education, delivery, everything you need with the safe or a vault door. Website is safesfirst.com. Their showroom is 1397 West, Sunset Boulevard, number 115 in St. George, Utah. Phone number is 435-767-7878.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is the Derek Legg podcast. We're just chilling here in the vault. Obviously, I'm not Derek Legg. You know, I'd like to be, though. He's a cool guy. My name's Blake. I'm just filling in as a guest host today. And then with me tonight, I have Jared Everett, my good friend, who filled in as a guest kind of earlier today, just kind of last minute, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
He gave me a call and said, hey, you want to be on the podcast tonight? And just so happens we've talked about a million times about being on a podcast, and everything aligned, and here I am.
Indeed. Yeah, and Jared and I, we've podcasted together before with our boss and some other folk. So this should be a good one. But, Derek just asked us to fill in. He's feeling under the weather. So, Derek, if you're watching this, I hope you're better by the time this posts. And if not, get well soon. Hearts, hugs, kisses, XOs. Maybe not the kisses, you know. Anyway. We're in the vault. Check out the logo at camera 3. Can I get camera 4 or 5 over here? Anyway, that's the logo. I don't think we show it enough on the Derek Legg podcast, but
I wonder if we could get like an audio for like a vault closing. It's like,
oh, we're actually, so Derek, if you're listening, and all you viewers of the Derek Legg podcast, we're actually getting in the works to make this an animated logo, and it's gonna like slam and the vault. Yeah, we got it. It's gonna be cool. Good. But yeah, you're on the same page. So today we got Jared here. Thanks for joining us. But we wanted to talk about kind of just like self-improvement, personal growth, more of like a business sense to it. Like you and I are both in sales, and we've had some major changes in our life the last couple of years that have opened the doors to like a lot of cool growth that we would never otherwise would have experienced. Also some big fat paychecks that you tend to get when you're in sales, it's life-changing stuff. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been in sales for a while, and part of sales, you got to find the right thing to sell and focus the right energy, because not all sales jobs are created equal.
That's true, man. That's a good point, because like you got to have. I mean, it's what is that? What does that entail? The right thing to sell. How would you describe that?
Really something that has a high revenue stream. Products that are in the thousands, tens of thousands. At least that's where the products that you and I are in the tens of thousands. Right. But we're working our way into some things, and eventually one day I'd like some things to be within the millions.
Right.
Or who knows, maybe more.
That's true. The items, yep. I mean, because I think selling anything, it takes the same amount of work. It's the same thing. Whether I'm selling you like a dirty banana peel or like a yacht, like a lot of those principles are just universal when it comes to sales. And we've had this discussion before in other ways, but would you agree with this statement that everybody is selling something?
Oh, absolutely.
Almost at any given time. Right.
Yep.
I mean, what are some examples of that? We usually throw them out in meetings. But.
Well, I mean, it starts obviously as a baby. You gotta sell that you're hungry.
That's right.
And how do you do that? How do you do that? By either crying, or say if you want attention, you cry, or you be cute and little smiles and stuff like that.
I forgot. That's the Grant Cardone thing we were quoting a while ago.
Yeah. But then obviously,
I don't know about you, but I was born a baby.
Yeah, I was born a baby. Literally. But yeah, then, as a kid, I mean, say you want to stay the night at your friend's house. I mean, you got to kind of put it together and position it in a way to try to close the deal so you can go hang out with your friends,
Everybody, whether they know it or not, is a salesman. At some point in life, it happens on the daily. So, like, I mean, if I had $1 for every time someone told me that they couldn't do sales, and then we like enlighten them in this route. So you were saying
you'd have so much money you wouldn't need to do sales.
I wouldn't need to do sales if I had $1 for every time someone told me I can't do sales. But you were saying, oh yeah, you're getting ready you want to sleep over at a friend's house.
Yeah. So, you got to sell that, or say when you get a little bit older and you're looking for, someone special, you got to sell yourself again. And really just whatever it is, you go get a job interview making license plates. I mean, you gotta. Usually, that's like maybe if you're in prison or something.
I was about to say,
But whatever it is, stamp factory. You got to sell yourself in the interview to a certain degree. I mean, sometimes they just need a warm body, but end of the day, I mean, it doesn't really matter what it is. Like you got to do sales in some form. It's an exchange of communication to get what it is that you want or need.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's people don't understand that you're selling yourself on the things you think and say every day too.
Absolutely.
If you're pissed off at work and you feel like you're not getting what you deserve and all these things, you're selling yourself on that item as well. The things you tell yourself over and over again, the things like what do you say? It's kind of a funny thing. Like I was saying, when people tell me that they could never do sales. Just that thought process, that loop in their head, for them to verbalize the fact that I could never do a sales position. You just sold yourself on that idea.
Yeah.
You just used sales to tell yourself that you could never do sales.
Yep. And you even closed the deal too.
Yeah, and you closed the deal.
Yep. You closed that deal a long time ago.
Yeah. Like how many mental deals do you close with yourself, like on a daily basis, about what you can and can't do, about what your preferences are too, even like, because like, let me put this to you. If, like, what's your favorite brand of shoes?
I had a long string of my late teens and early 20s where I only wore Michael Jordans. But, as I've gotten older, I've kind of gotten away from it. But, I mean, I like some Nikes.
Sure.
Tennis shoes.
Right. Would you say that preference of you liking Nikes, is that a small part of your identity?
I mean, it could be.
Yeah.
Could be. The brands we wear, I don't know that I necessarily support everything that goes behind Nike, but it's more of kind of a cultural thing. Like, there's a lot of, what do they call people that are into shoes?
Oh, I know the term. I can't think of it.
Man,
the guy's buying like $400 or $500 pair of Nikes.
Exactly,
with like 10 of them.
Yeah. So for the most part, that's
shoeheads. I don't know.
Sneakerheads. And it seems like a lot of the shoes that they're into are Nikes. So it might just be a cultural thing. Yeah. Maybe I'm just kind of following the crowd on that one. But like I said, it was back in teenage years. 35 now. That's all I'd wear. Michael Jordans.
I mean, like a good pair of shoes does a lot for the soul. Like it's important,
You gotta be fresh. You gotta comfortable, agile.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with like new clothes and everything. But the point is, like, if I tell people all the time that like, I love pizza, or I don't like broccoli or whatever, or I prefer the color blue or green or whatever, I'm essentially like selling everybody my identity. I'm selling myself on that idea. Oh, I only do this. I only do these things. I only listen. Like my favorite too is music brands, or genres of music. Oh, I hate country music, or I hate rap.
What about like the iPhone to Android thing?
Oh yeah, too. That's a big one too.
Yeah.
So you're basically selling yourself who you are on the daily basis. And if you're like wondering why, like, what possesses someone to say, oh, I only listen to rock and roll. It's like, okay, yeah. I mean, it might be relevant to the conversation, but like to vocalize that out, you're now like selling yourself on it a little bit more. You're doing sales.
Like you're selling yourself, and then you're selling them to reinforce.
Yeah, exactly. You're building your identity, and you're selling yourself on it daily, and it might change. And something that changes your identity, like you got to resell yourself on it. So if you're having a midlife crisis or like an identity crisis, you're like, the things you've been selling yourself on for the last decade have probably changed in some way, shape, or form. So, and we'll get into that too, because you and I have both had some of those moments in life where a shift happens, and the image that you've built has changed a lot, right? So we'll talk about that. But so yeah, well, you said you kind of recently came into an entrepreneurial like sales thing. So I was just going to let you take the floor and kind of tell everybody who you are, because for those of you listening, like when I met Jared, we call him J-Rod at our office, but it was the beginning for some huge self-improvement changes in my life for the better. And since I've been working with you and everything, like I've just grown a lot. And so I really respect Jared. That's why I have him on the podcast today, because I think his story is worth telling. So yeah, man, go ahead. Just kind of give us, who's Jared Everett?
Well, it's this guy sitting in this chair right here.
Oh, that's you?
That's me, yeah.
Damn.
So you can check me out on Instagram. I'm sure they'll throw something on there on the videos on Instagram.
Sure.
But yeah, so I mean, I guess it depends on where you want to start, because I can start when I was a kid and how my childhood was like and the things that I was exposed to. So it kind of was I call myself a free range kid.
Free range?
Free range. So there was really no rules.
No fences?
No fences. And there just really wasn't many rules. My parents broke up before I could even remember. And, both of them had their issues with addiction and alcoholism. So in growing up in kind of a dysfunctional environment, I mean, that's really all I knew. And, I was kind of exposed to a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have in terms of, violence amongst adults. Like, I think I was about 8 years old and watched a full-grown man that we were helping out staying with us. I mean, he came home drunk and beat up my mom in front of me and my sisters, So stuff like that, it's just like no little kid should ever see anything like that, or like around that time, my uncle got stabbed 27 times by my aunt's boyfriend, So like just, it was a crazy time, and I'm like 9-10 years old and like, that's what I know, and so just like I said, kind of free range kid, not a lot of rules. Really grew up on the other side of the tracks, if you will. And I'm originally from Southern California. Moved to Utah when I was about 8 in 1994. I had no idea what the LDS religion was or anything like that. So it was kind of a culture shock once I started kind of figuring out the dynamic and the culture here in St. George, especially back then. It was just such a small town back in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
And so. I still always had friends, whatever, like it was cool, but there was also kind of this, I would say, an outsider looking in kind of vibe that I always kind of felt like I'm cool, but I'm not in. Do you
think that was due to the LDS religion and everyone else being LDS, or was it?
Well, I think I was extremely rough around the edges. I'm this kid, and I had some cousins that influenced me a lot to like try to fight and stuff like that. So, so I'd go to, I was that little kid in the schoolyard, like probably at least once a year or once a week for a couple of years. I mean, I was getting in fist fights and stuff. And it lasted all the way until I was into about halfway through 8th grade. And then just kind of matured. I grew like 4 inches in 8th grade. And along with the physical growth, it was like weird. There was a mental growth as well. And I just kind of matured, and it was like, within about 6 months, I was a completely different person. I'd completely calmed down. I wasn't looking to try to fight people, and I actually felt bad about how I went about my business. And I remember my 9th grade year, it was just a completely different mindset, because people that I otherwise, I guess you could say I had problems with or didn't like me, all of a sudden we were talking in class and stuff like that. So
being homies,
yeah, because I mean,
that's good.
I just, like I said, just kind of matured out of that, but. And in my early teens and stuff, like what I looked up to was basically like drug dealers, because that's like the influences I had were like the older homies, like my sister's boyfriends and all that. So they kind of exposed me to that, and that's what I looked up to. And through my teens, I sold some weed, but always worked. You have it.
You heard it here first, folks. He sold some weed.
Now, I was 14 when I started working, and I've basically been working since. So last 21 years, I've held down a consistent job.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I got to say this about you after knowing you for, what is it? We're coming up on 2 years soon.
Yep.
But like, dude, I've met some people with some hard fucking work ethic. Oh, excuse my French. I'm sorry. This is Derek's pod. If you know Derek Legg, do not judge him off of my cuss words, please.
Or my drug dealing.
Or yeah, him selling weed. But yeah, I've met a lot of people with good work ethic, but like you're on a different level, and that's a theme within the guys that we work with as well. So I got to hand that to you, dude.
Yeah.
Like top notch work ethic with this guy.
Appreciate it.
So continue on. So 14 years old, you've been working.
Yeah. So and I messed around, played some football stuff through middle school, a little bit in the early part of high school, but then kind of got away from it sophomore and junior year, and really, kind of got behind. All my friends were older than me, and they either were graduated or went to Mill Creek. I was cool with people, but I had like one dude I was actually like in my friends group that I went to school with. And come my junior year, and I'd always been strong, like working out and stuff. And like even without working out, one of the strongest kids in my grade, like second or third. But then come my junior year, I took weight training, and it was all natural, but within a couple months, I blew up. I put on like 20 pounds of muscle, and it was just my body was ready for it, you know? And so all of a sudden I'm like stronger than everyone in my grade and most kids in the grade above me. And everybody's like, yo, why don't you start playing football again? So I had agreed. I agreed to do it. And they were like, I remember it was towards the end of my junior year, and they were like, so anybody that's serious about playing football, as you know, everybody has this Friday off from school, but anybody that's serious about playing football next year needs to show up at 6 o'clock in the weight room. And I made the decision to show up, which was really, really a catalyst, if you will, for a lot of things in my life. Started with that decision. So
do you mind if I had that down here? I was going to ask you, like, what's been the most life-changing thing or habit or moment?
I would say that that decision. And what's kind of ironic about it is we were also moving at that time. So I went to school early in the morning. We went and got some breakfast. And because I was still friends with a lot of guys on the football team, so I just kind of clicked up with some of the dudes, and we went out and ate breakfast. And I come back, and there's a cop car in front of my house. And my buddy's like, yo, what's up? Do you want to just take off? I was like, no, I'm cool. So I walk up, and they just detain me right there, sit me down on the curb. And basically, so my mom's boyfriend at the time, he was dealing like meth out of there.
Some hard stuff
out of there. Like I used to, so a little bit of context, like the way that I grew up, like I never even had a bedroom. I slept on the couch. So even all through high school, I'm on the couch. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, I got these people knocking on the door, waking me up, asking where my mom's boyfriend is. And I'm running them off because I'm like, get the out of here, you know? So anyway, they were raiding the house, and they ended up, my mom and myself were the only ones there, and they took her to jail, and they took me to detention.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm like, the day, like really I made the commitment to like, get back on track with my life, because playing football, that also means having good grades. You can't play without, So that was a part of that decision. It's like a commitment to this physical stuff, and also a commitment to, getting in line with my education. So I ended up having to go to detention and all that stuff. And, but it was just, I've seen that in my life. It's like, and I've seen it with a lot of people. It's like, whenever you're right there and you're going to bust through, right? You're making that decision to better yourself. Life has a funny way, the universe, of throwing obstacles in your way to try to test you and throw you off your path.
Absolutely.
So that was one of those situations for me. Mm-hmm. So, it was what it was. I, spent about 4 days in there, and then they let me out, released me to my dad, and then I lived with my dad basically through the rest of high school.
And you continued playing football and everything? You met that commitment?
Yeah. So, I go through the whole summer program. And like I said, I was already kind of swole up, but then I put on an additional 10 pounds of muscle. And all of a sudden, I'm an all-American power lifter, completely natural. And one of the fastest kids, top 5 fastest kids on the team.
What position did you play?
I played defensive tackle.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, they
defensive end is what I presume.
Yeah, they didn't want to give me the ball. Nobody could tackle me one-on-one either. And the running backs coach was like, we need him, like, backup run, whatever. We need him going with the backs. And the head coach was, I don't know, there's some weird political stuff, but it was like, we don't give him the ball. Like, we were in practice one time, and I was on the punt return just as a blocker. They muffed the punt, pick it up, take it in for a touchdown. I mean, I'm faster than the guy who's returning the damn thing. And the coach told me, never do that again. You just fall on that ball. And it's like, okay, fastest guy in the field. You don't want to touch him. So it was what it was. I would never regret playing. Like I said, it was really the catalyst that changed my life. But there was just some politics involved with it.
Yeah.
So
that's another topic. That's a leadership failure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Understanding your strengths of your players or your.
But I feel like I've since made amends with that guy because I actually I sold him some windows.
That's good.
Yep. And then he referred me to his brother-in-law, and I sold him some too. But yeah. So basically, backtrack to my senior year. Right. I'm at football practice, and we're sitting there stretching, and these guys are talking about, I'm going to go to this college, or I'm going to go to this college, or I only have like 2 or 4 classes because it was a block schedule. So it's like you had 4 classes one day, 4 classes the next, total of 8. And there's guys, because they already so ahead on their credits that, they literally have to go to school half a day.
Yeah.
And I'm over here like, I'm more than a full year behind in terms of the Fs that I had in the past, and then a bunch of no grades. So if you miss school, they give you at least back then what's called a restitution.
Yeah.
So you have to basically make it up. It's like a study hall that you pay for, and you go do it after school. And then, so if you have restitution due for a specific class, they give you a no grade. So even if you got an A in it, you don't get credit for it unless you make up the restitution. So I'm looking around these guys, and I'm like, not one of these guys are better than me. Not one of them are smarter than me. And that was my first exposure to people where success was like a normal thing to them. It was almost like an afterthought. Whereas like, graduating high school, I mean, to me, that was some success because I was, like I said, more than a year behind. So I really decided to buckle down because football is, beginning of the year. So this is kind of beginning of the year sort of thing. So I did all 8 classes. I did math, science, English, everything, full schedule. I also did packets. I also did night school. I did everything I could, but I was still a full year behind in no grades because I had ditched so much a couple years before that. And so the athletic director of the school, and he was a vice principal, he had been recruiting me 10th and 11th grade to try to go play football. He's like, man, you should go be on the team. So finally when I was on the team, he was so happy about it. Yeah. Especially when he saw all, like, how I went basically complete 180 from kind of this kid that's like, smoke weed or whatever. I was like running with that crowd. So all of a sudden, like, even when we get off practice, we're going to watch like volleyball games and, I mean, soccer games, whatever. Like I was fully involved all into school. I was there 12 hours a day. And so he was talking and just kind of asking me, and I was like, just kind of updating him. Yeah, I've done this, I've done this, and this is what's holding me back. So I got to figure that out, Yeah. And he's like, you know what? Why don't you come meet with me, and we'll have a talk about it. So I went and met with him. It was like after lunch one day. And we just had a casual conversation about working out and stuff because he was super strong too. The dude could bench like 500 pounds. Ooh. So we were just talking about like working out, football, and all this. And I didn't know what he was doing, but he's kind of on his computer. And he's like, all right, it's all taken care of. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, all your no grades, they're gone. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like a full year of school he just gave back to me. And it still was cut so close that I wasn't 100% sure I was graduating until the rehearsal the night before when they called all of our names through. That's when I knew. Name
on the rehearsal.
That's when I knew 100% I was going to graduate. So it was like, I mean, I had to make it happen. And really it was just that exposure to people that were, doing a lot more than me that actually kind of had that part of their lives together. And it's like, if they can do it, I can do it. And yeah, I mean, I got some ground to make up, but I mean, I set a goal and I accomplished it. And it really kind of set the tone for like a mindset moving forward. Like I learned so much about myself, what I'm capable of, and it really doesn't matter what it is. If I apply myself, I mean,
Yeah.
I can make it happen.
I was going to ask you, have you always felt comfortable speaking and talking with people?
For the most part, like when I was a kid, like I would go into grocery stores and just do a bunch of crazy shit. Like this is pre-Jackass, but like I would act like I was maybe handicapped or whatever, just to like get a laugh.
Yeah.
Not even get a laugh, like to make my friends laugh.
Yeah.
You know, walk around, look at, or say my cousin and I, we used to go to Lynn's over in Dixie Downs, and we would hide behind the toilet paper. And then we would stand, one of us would, he, for example, would stand or sit behind the toilet paper, and I'd build a little wall, and then I'd go like 10 feet down. And when someone was right there, I'd tap on the metal racks, and he would hear the tap and he'd jump out and like scare him. So I would always do stuff like that. Like you really, like if you told me to say something to someone, like I would just say it. So I've never been shameful in that light. Then also one of your notes you wanted to talk to me about is, I used to rap back in the day.
Yeah.
And I was real serious. And, some life things happened with children and getting married, and I gave up on that dream. But say if she didn't come into my life at that time, I mean, I would be a rapper. I'd be rapping.
You'd probably have some gold teeth.
Yeah.
Some diamonds.
I'd have a chain for sure.
Chains.
Yeah.
You'd have a couple tattoos under your eye
But with that,
sockets.
like, I was serious about it. So, like, someone back then could put me on the spot and be like, freestyle. I'm like, well, this is what I want to do. So, no shame in my game. And
Gotcha.
I would be at the bar with my fake ID when I was like 19 and like freestyling about the whole bar, and even went up on karaoke and started busting raps instead of singing. So it really kind of inoculated me into not being
afraid.
Yeah.
Speaking, talking, or being in front of people.
Exactly.
Because the reason I ask is that's how you made it happen, was talking. Like, obviously you had a really good mentor helping you through high school, and he got you on the team or whatever impact he had on you, right? But you probably, I don't know if you sold him on it, but you used your voice, your words, and you talked it out, and you laid out a plan. And so a lot of people don't realize that's, if you can articulate your plan to somebody, that's essentially what business is. Mm-hmm. If you can paint a picture, you can't ever do everything on your own. And so, I mean, in this scenario, you were behind on your schooling, and you'd really done a 180, and you're trying to get your goals accomplished. So painting that picture to somebody just got him on your side, and he just click, cleared a whole year of school for you. To me, that's like the ultimate salesmanship, is just expressing an idea or a course of action and rallying people to that course of action to help you accomplish. That's all it was, right?
Yep. You're absolutely right.
I just think that's an awesome. I've never heard that story yet, so I'm glad you saved it for this podcast, because that's awesome.
Cool.
I didn't know that, but
yeah, and we've had many in-depth conversations.
we have, man. We've talked a lot.
But yeah, that's I would say one of the pillars that kind of turned me into who I am now. In terms of, I would say, work ethic, obviously you got to work hard to do all that I went through with that, and it did teach me a lot. And I worked with my dad a little bit. He's a career drywaller. So I mean, he would teach me about work ethic. Like, hey, you hustle. He's like, your cousins, when they're on the job, people make fun of how slow they go.
Yeah.
They say they look like zombies walking around. He's like, I never want someone saying about like that about you. Like, you hustle. So he kind of
That's awesome.
planted a seed relatively early with that. And then out of high school, I became an iron worker or a rod buster. I placed rebar to reinforce concrete in Las Vegas. And it was my brother-in-law who had recruited me, got me the job. And I mean, he's just a see through the bullshit type of person.
Yeah.
Like, you can ask people that know and have worked with him, or say when you meet Pat, just ask Pat about Bob. I mean, like a superior work ethic. And I mean, just a filter that sees right through the bullshit. So, I mean, if you're going to come to Bob, you got to come correct. And if you have Bob's respect in, say, your line of work, say if you're working with him, that's a big deal, because he's either going to respect you or he put so much value into work that if you aren't like just about your business, I mean, he's literally going to hate you.
Yeah, like he has no choice because of his ethics.
Yes.
He's like, if you're against my ethics, I have to hate you.
He has to hate you. And he's full of hate. He's full of love too, but I mean, yeah, he'll hold a grudge. He'll hold a grudge. But I mean, even more so than that, so like that's Bob, right? Bob's big brother also worked for the company Bo, and we called him BDB, Big Deal Bo, because everything. I mean, how you do one thing's how you do everything. And Bo made you run. We did not walk. We worked. We took one 15-minute break a day, and then we got off 15 minutes before 7 or before 8 hours, unless we were working overtime.
Dude, that's like some military shit.
Yeah,
right there.
You run where you go, and I mean the pace. Just I mean how clean we were, how fast we were. We would have 40-year project managers kind of just sit there with their jaw drop watching us work, because we would get things done twice as fast as anybody, and it would be so completely perfect. And that's what Bo demanded was perfection, and not to take your time on the perfection. We had our systems dialed in so good, we didn't even have to communicate. We had a whole crew of guys. We all lived in Utah. We all went to Snow Canyon High School. These guys were just a little bit older than me by about, my brother-in-law 3 years older than the rest of them 5 years older, his brother-in-law and their kind of crew. And we would commute down to Las Vegas, and they called us the Utah Boys. And we set a standard for quality and we worked ourselves out of jobs.
Yeah.
You know?
Because, you work too fast. I've been on jobs like that, government contract kind of thing, and you get the work done too quick.
Yeah.
And then you're out of a paycheck sooner. You're like, crap.
And we weren't union, and I had no idea what union was or anything like that. My very first day, I'm over here tying a little piece of rebar, and this guy walks by me, looks at me, and he's all scab. And he's just like staring me down, walking by me, like with his head just looking at me. He's walking by, like looking back over his shoulder at me. I'm like, what is that about? And then they're like, well, it's the union. Those are union structural steel iron workers, and they're close with the other sort of iron worker, a rod buster. And if they see guys that aren't union,
they get pissed.
They get pissed. So there'd be people picketing our jobs. Like they'd be out with signs and stuff, and it was just coming from small town Utah down to the big city, and I had no idea what this stuff is, and these people hate me because I'm a young kid that like, hey, it was prevailing wage. I started at $45 an hour, and
how old were you?
I started on my 19th birthday.
$45 an hour at 19.
Yep. So I worked in town for about 5 months with another guy just to kind of get trained up, and then they called me down to the big leagues. Or they called me up.
The big leagues and rod busting.
Yeah, they called me up to the big leagues making prevailing wage, which was great. I mean, I made about $250,000 in the first 2 years of working there.
Oh, that's fantastic for a 19-year-old.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had good money. I was in great shape. And, I was spending lots of time on Las Vegas. So, I got in.
1 + 1. I know that equation.
I had a little bit of fun back then. And it was good for a while. Bought a house when I was 20 years old, had a nice truck. And I remember thinking, like, what if I don't buy the house? At the time, I was staying part-time in a fifth-wheel trailer over in, by the Nellis Air Force Base, a couple days a week. And then I was also living in St. George. I was like, what if I just move down? I stay in this fifth wheel. I mean, I'm paying $400 a month for it. I don't get the truck, and I just stack my cash. That thought crossed my brain.
Your brain.
My head. And my mind. Anyway, but I started talking about, like, because it was obvious I could afford a truck, and I wanted something nice, so I got the truck. Then I started talking about buying a house, and everybody I spoke to about it, like, you're 20 years old, you're going to buy a house, like, dude, that's so awesome, like, you're so ahead of the game. And this is all people I respected. Even, like, Bo was one of them, and he had already bought 2 houses and made about $100,000 in equity off each one. So he's like, oh, J-Rod,
buy a house.
Buy a house. Well, this was 2007, folks, in Las Vegas. So,
folks.
So, a historical event happened. The recession happened, and the company, they had themselves stretched a little bit too thin on some certain things, and they went out of business. So the next thing you know, I'm on unemployment, and then the value of my house drops to a third of what I paid for it.
Damn.
And I tried to short sell it, and it wasn't selling. I lived there for like 6 months. without even paying the mortgage because I couldn't. And finally, I just walked away from it.
Yeah.
I had foreclosed on it. So I had to spend basically most of my 20s with bad credit.
Yeah.
You know, and it was
crazy, dude.
Yeah. So it was an interesting event. Luckily, it happened when I was really young, right? Because a lot of people don't buy their first home until, you know, they're older
25
than,
plus.
older than 20, you know.
It's true.
So lots of lessons. I mean, I'd adjusted my bills to exactly what I was making. So say if I got sick and took a week off, I mean, I might not make my bills, but how did I know?
You're 20.
Young.
Yeah. That much money coming out your ears. A very similar thing happens, like from my experience in the military. You have all your living expenses paid for, and then you just have this chunk of cash. You know, like I was making like $3,000 a month, or something like that. I can't remember. It's a good amount of money though for a 19-year-old. Not $45 an hour.
Yeah.
But when everything else is covered, you're like, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah. And they had regular raises too. So by the time I got laid off, excuse me, about 3 years later, we were making $56 an hour.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So it was steadily always going up.
And that's hard work, dude, being rod buster.
Yeah. I shrunk half an inch doing that job.
Spinal compression?
Yep. So you'd always be bent over tying slabs, or I mean, the rebar we would deal with. I mean, it would be
push your spine down.
Yeah, it would be close to 2 inches thick in diameter. Some of it.
Yeah.
And we would do it 20-foot pieces, 6 inches on center for a mile.
Yeah.
You know, and extremely strong because I was already naturally strong, and I never stopped going to the gym during that time. But then I had a lot of brute strength because I mean, we'd get guys hired on and they'd last a little bit. I mean, they'd like muscle bound dudes.
Oh yeah, sure.
And literally can't even pick up half of the stuff that I could pick up. Like literally less than half.
It's funny how
so you're packing that. Sorry to cut you off, but you're packing that still on your shoulder as well. We call it punkin rebar. So
punkin.
Yeah. So for the majority of your day, you're either bent over tying slab, or you're punkin. You got freaking 100 pounds on your shoulder.
Rebar, dude. Yeah.
And it was. We weren't the smartest. Like we thought we were badasses. So we didn't even wear gloves. I'm down there in Las Vegas. 115 degrees. I mean, I've worked in 128 degrees down in like the salt flats by Lake Mead, and we wouldn't use gloves. My hands, they look like a mechanic's hands, but like all these calluses. Like I remember,
it's like burnt in there.
Yeah, I could take stuff out of the oven.
Like I mean, with just your bare hand.
Yeah, the bar was so hot that I mean, literally, it would scald your skin. But we all had these huge calluses on our hands. And people, they would like put a piece of cardboard or a piece of glove or like their glove or something to put the rebar on their shoulder. I wore one shirt and put that shit on my shoulder the whole time, every summer. That shit was, and I had like a huge callus. It almost looked like alligator skin or something.
Didn't you say you had told me once that you started having a patch of hair growing too?
My brother-in-law did. He evolved. Epigenetics. I think that's what happened there. But he grew a patch of hair right there,
just to protect from the heat.
Yeah. So just so he could put the rebar there, like just a nice little patch of hair. It was the funniest thing. And but then after a while, like I think I did 2 summers of that, and then finally I remember I went out to eat with my buddy and his family, and they're kind of a well-to-do family. Like his grandpa was the judge that tried Ted Bundy up north when he escaped out of the courthouse and all that. But anyway, like both sides of the family well-to-do, and I remember we went out to a Mexican restaurant, and we're getting the chips and salsa, and I remember her just staring at my hands. She didn't get one chip. And my hands were clean. I took a shower, washed my hands a bunch, but every little line was black. Yeah. You know, cuts all over it, and just calluses for days. And then just the muscles in my hand because you clip the rebar or the wire.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And we do double wire for most things because the rebar is so wide. So like literally, they had like this grip test that you could do at this bar that I'd go to with my friends, and they could do like half of it, and I would barely even squeeze, and just like the whole thing just all the way lit up.
You all evolved, not just your brother.
Yeah.
You all, like, it's like you're out on like an alien planet, dude. It's like 128 degrees.
Yeah.
And you're just like evolving in the desert.
It's amazing like how tough a human being can get, you know. So
it is,
I mean,
man.
You catch me at 21. I mean, I grew up fighting and stuff, and a little bit of boxing, so I've always been able to handle myself. And compared to all the UFC fighters down there, I would have got my ass kicked. But just in terms of how tough I was, like not just fist fight wise, I mean,
you're talking like actual physical like
physical
body toughness.
Yeah, because I never stopped going to the gym.
Yeah.
And just doing that sort of work. Like I could just squeeze the life out of something. But I went in. I was nice. I did get in a fight one time. I got jumped by a bunch of Polynesians down in Mesquite, but that's another story. I was okay.
We'll save that for our podcast where we can be a little more colorful.
Everything's cool, but a lot of people were a witness to it, and they're like, you know what? Given the circumstances, you did pretty good.
I've heard.
But yeah, so that's just then, right? Early 20s. Recession happens, and then I meet my the girl I married, the woman I married,
the lady who shall not be named.
Yes, we're divorced now. Well, probably like next week it'll be final. Nothing bad to say, just you didn't work out, and there was effort, but just didn't work out. But so she came along, and my money was gone, even my health was gone because I'd recently just broke my ankle. I slid into second base playing softball and broke it.
Damn.
So all of a sudden, like, I go from being like all jacked up, got my own house, I made a great job,
top of the world,
to I'm living in my buddy's apartment because I lost my house. I'm on unemployment because I lost my job, and I got my leg propped up because I broke my ankle, and so I'm not working out, and just a juxtaposition of life, if you will.
Yes. It's funny too. You'll probably agree with this, but how quickly the human body can deteriorate.
Yeah. Well,
so you got all that calluses.
As we get into the health issues I've dealt with later, yeah.
Because I've seen it firsthand with you.
Yeah, way more than I ever dealt with
Yeah,
him.
you were yoked when I met you.
Yeah.
And then you had some flare-ups recently.
Well, yeah, it's been over a year. So I have a severe ulcerative colitis that I'm working through. And I've been in an active flare-up for over a year. Mm-hmm. And I'd had it for about 7 years before that year happened. And it would be on and off.
Yeah.
But this time it just hasn't gone away. And it's
true.
It's led to other things like I have like basically no iron in my blood, so I'm like chronically anemic. I deal with a lot of pain and low energy, and so I have to be on blood thinners because I had a series of pulmonary embolisms. Eesh. And this was just about 4 months ago. And,
yeah, those are painful.
Yeah, oh yeah, I was coughing up blood, the whole deal. So backtracking, and then that's when I met and all the while, like I had my own little studio. I mean, I was making mixtapes, like. I was rapping. I even had a rap about rebar, the whole deal.
I've heard, for those of you listening, I've heard Jared freestyle, and it's good. It's a treat.
But I gave those days up. But yeah, so we got together. We fell in love. We had my oldest son shortly thereafter, and yeah, so it was time to. I had a different set of priorities and responsibilities at that point. And we ended up having 3 kids in 40 months. And so, like, we really had, like, 3 kids in diapers all at once. And we didn't have a lot of family around. And my wife, she had a similar upbringing to me. And probably even dealt with some worse things that I had dealt with. So she was extremely protective of the children. And we really never had, like, she wasn't comfortable with people watching the kids.
I can't blame her. I mean, you've known my background as well, and like, like I don't think personally I could even have kids with some of the things I've dealt with. For those of you that don't know, you're not gonna know. So another time maybe, but yeah, it's I'm with her on that.
Yeah, yeah, and I understand, especially with the things that she dealt with. Like I said, the things that I mentioned earlier, I mean, there was more than that happened, but
yeah, you're just summarizing.
Yeah, what happened with her, I mean, she went through some things. And but what that equates to is a life and it was single family income, and I've always taken work very serious. So I would work my ass off. I've had jobs where I worked 100 hours in a week.
Sure.
And this is physical work, like.
Oh yeah.
Like
labor,
pushing, lifting. We're working with these nasty chemicals and I've been covered head to toe in chemicals you probably shouldn't be covered head to toe in.
Where's OSHA?
OSHA, yeah. No, we had some it was every time we went out on our work trip, it was an adventure. So my life consisted of work, kids, work, kids, work, kids, work, kids. And by the time, and that, I was involved with the kids. I didn't just come home and kick my feet up. She'd be dealing with them all day, and that's not easy, especially 3 little kids. So I would help out with cook dinner, I put the kids to bed, or she'd go to the gym, and I would hold it down, get them to bed, very hands-on. But kind of left the relationship to the wayside and left my personal needs also to the wayside. I mean, it got to the point where, I disregarded myself so much, I never even looked in the mirror. I kind of just had a scruff look, didn't shave regularly. I would just put on a hat, wear it a little bit low, and
just go.
And
just robot mode.
Just complete robot mode. And that went on. It went on for years. Underslept, overworked. I just didn't take any time to get what I needed. And I mean, the stuff that I was wearing, I was still wearing stuff from high school, and I was already mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
Nothing that I wasn't getting anything that I needed. And nobody has a roadmap. From where I come from, there's not I never had a mentor or someone to say, hey, I see how you're doing this, son, and you got to do something different.
Yeah,
you got to
make a change or something.
So, and it ultimately culminated into, and I think it's just it's a combination. And we weren't eating very well either. Whatever was easy, we would do drive-through, eat a bunch of ice cream, whatever. Before I had met her, I mean, I was very strict on what I ate. I mean, I had veins running up my abs.
Yeah.
And then I go from that to be which drive-thru are we going to hit tonight?
Yeah.
We got a Dixie Direct card, and we would use that thing.
Sure.
You get free meals and stuff.
Yeah.
So terrible diet, underslept, overworked, underappreciated. Just my tank is completely empty. Just not even fumes to run off of.
Right.
And then, and I think also probably some sort of genetic predisposition as well. And a combination of all these factors.
And
Stress. I was so stressed. Just in money problems. That was a big stressor as well. My wife, she wasn't the nicest, She learned later, but I mean, really wasn't very nice.
That's if we can tangent there for a second.
Yeah.
That's common with a lot of with a lot of girls.
Yeah.
They just don't know how to be nice.
Yeah, and and she didn't have any role models either.
Yeah.
So we're just these 2 kids from dysfunctional families thinking that we could have all these responsibilities and be successful and put it together, and we couldn't. We didn't have what it took. As we got older, I mean, we started figuring some things out, but she just basically finally got done with everything, and really it was we kind of got to the light at the end of the tunnel with a lot of things, especially financially, and she was just done. Just checked out, and we parted ways. But kind of that culmination of things, all of a sudden I started going to the bathroom a lot. Yeah. And having lots of stomach pain, and then a month goes by, and then start noticing some other things. Don't want to get too graphic, but just a lot of blood when I was going to the bathroom.
Sure.
And then I lost 25 pounds, and it's what's going on? And so for my disease, the average person that gets it is a Caucasian male in a westernized civilization at the age of 28. If you're watching this video, I'm definitely Caucasian. I definitely live in a westernized civilization.
Yeah.
And I spent my 28th birthday in the emergency room trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So finally we were able to, and she was a huge support through all of it. Because it was right after our 3rd kid was born. Within a month, I had my first flare up. So I'm bedridden. We got a newborn, and we have 2 toddlers.
Yeah.
And she's just and it was a big mindset that she had. I think that she's just powered through it. She just didn't overthink any of it, just powered through it,
It sounds like that's what you guys were good at, is just putting your head down and just doing what you got to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's real easy to neglect everything else in your life when you're so focused on just surviving.
Yeah. So, dude, I was in straight survival mode, and also hyper aware because the kids are so young. It's I've had to save my youngest from choking a couple times, to the point where over a minute, I'm got him slinged over and patting on his back, and literally within 2 seconds, we lived right around the corner from the hospital. I was just going to throw him in the truck and go.
Yeah.
But then it just like dislodged in his throat. It was still in there, but it dislodged and he started breathing. But I mean, literally his lips turned purple.
Yeah.
So just there's a hyper awareness that comes with having you're
3
outnumbered.
toddlers.
Yeah, 3 toddlers.
You're outnumbered.
And so it was just like it was very taxing, over the course of a number of years having that sort of awareness. You're just always on, always on, always on.
Yeah.
And then having
like the slightest noise would wake you up, probably.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay. Yeah.
I used to, when I lived in California when I was a kid, I'd sleep through earthquakes. I'd have friends come over because, like I said, I slept on the couch.
Yeah.
They would walk in while I was, like, say, if I fell asleep, they would walk in and be like trying to wake me up and shake me and stuff. I wouldn't wake up. Just slept like a rock. Now, and since I've had kids, I mean, you could breathe, just like yawn. You could blink fast. I mean, seriously, anything wakes me up. And when I used to work on the road for a while, my kids were still young, I would wake up in the middle of the night, like ready to change a diaper. I'm like, what I got to do?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm 1,000 miles away from my kids. Like,
Yeah, you're
it
on
was,
the road.
there's a lot of physiological things that women go through, but also a man goes through it as well. And when we had our first kid, I dieted and exercised the whole time, and I still put on 20 pounds.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it was weird, but we loved each other. We were connected. It was us against the world.
Sure.
But after that third kid, right after that, I got sick for the first time.
Yeah.
Ended up losing the job that I had. And luckily we had got our tax returns right around that time. And when you ain't making a lot of money and you got 3 kids, they'll cut you off a nice check.
Yeah.
So, at least we had some money. And then I ended up going to work with my brother-in-law, and that's when I worked on the road. And, we'd work 100 hours in a week and very physical stuff. But kind of got me back on track financially because we made pretty good money doing that stuff. So, 3 years went by. Mm-hmm. I had changed jobs. We lived in Colorado at the time. We ended up moving back to Las Vegas. I was in Colorado when I got sick for the first time. And then 3 years went by, symptom-free. I was like, I kicked this thing. I don't even know what they were talking about.
Yeah, you're like, this ain't shit.
Yeah, this ain't shit. Yeah. And
So before this might be a good place to, just for me to remind the audience real quick, but we're talking about like self-improvement, and we started talking about sales.
Yeah.
And what people don't quite understand is that if you are going to experience wealth or success in life, you have to learn and understand that these ups and downs are all part of it, because they really shape you into the person to become. And so as we approach here, as J-Rod, as we call him around our office, as Jared finishes this story, I can expound on some things. So keep going.
Cool. And, and all the while, too, so for example, if I had the confidence in myself that I was going to become a famous rapper, I thought highly of myself. I thought I was very capable. Mm-hmm. I've always had a lot of confidence in myself and what I'm able to do. And during this whole time of having these kids and going through all of this, like, a part of me always knew, like, man, what are you doing? Like, you're capable of so much more. And that was part of, like, kind of the depressed state that I was in, because I was doing nothing towards making myself better, nothing. Like, I was just straight in autopilot. Mm-hmm. And it kind of weighed on me, because I always knew I had a lot of self-worth, a lot of capabilities, and I just never took the initiative to go there.
Can I pause you?
Yeah.
Could you have? Or were you so entrenched in surviving, like paycheck to paycheck, kids, diaper change, dinner, whatever was in front of you? Did you have time or vision to see it?
It was it was something that more so was in the back of my mind, because I just had so much going on, and it was like, just straight survival mode, just completely reactive and not proactive in my life.
Ah, okay.
And I knew that.
So life had you on your heels.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Life had me on. I was backpedaling for years, like 8 years straight. And so, and that didn't bleed well into my marriage, into how she viewed me, and basically I just turned into a version, like a blob version of my former self.
Yeah.
Because I was, I've always kind of had an A-type personality, or amongst my group of friends, I was always kind of the leader. And I remember this one girl telling me back when I was like 19, she was like, it's kind of weird, Jared. Like, your group of friends, it doesn't seem like you match. It seems like you're just like on this level and everybody looks up to you and kind of what you say goes. And it just seems like you're like capable, or just, she's like, it just doesn't match up. Your group of friends and how like I view you, like, not kind of calling me out, but it really gave me some perspective on terms of, I was the coolest one of my friends. I was the smartest one. I was the strongest one. Like, I was the best looking one. But, my friends are great, and I'm still friends with those guys to this day, a lot of them. But at the same time, it's like, if you're the best in the group of average people, or you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. So even though some people viewed me, or I had like this confidence in myself, really I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
And so it's always kind of this thing nagging in the back of my mind.
Did you feel like you were doing something, like because you might have felt superior, or like, you were on this level, and like, there's a difference between thinking you're on this level and you're not, and then there's a difference between like the confidence where you're like, okay, I know my capabilities are here. And it might sound egotistical to even say that about yourself, but that's, I think, part of self-improvement is understanding, having a real conversation with yourself and being able to articulate that to others. You're like, I was here, stuff like that, and people I was around were here.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard. It's hard because, like I said, the way I grew up, like I thought the cool guys were the good dudes that sold drugs.
Yeah. They got in the fights.
And
dated the hot chick, right?
Yeah, and those were my friends. You know, we had the chick. We threw the parties. We had the chicks. We beat people up. Like, it was a lot of fun. I have stories for days. I was telling my dad a bunch of stories the other day, and he, he's got all sorts of stuff he's gotten into, and he's just kind of looking at me like, what?
He's like, how were you on that level?
Yeah. So there's just a lot of stuff we did, a lot of fun that we had. But like I said, it was just kind of like, I was just extremely unfulfilled and just definitely wasn't on the path. And there was always a part of me that knew I needed to get on it. And
so
what are you doing?
Do you think you knew what that path was?
No. I started, so a little bit later, so we moved to Las Vegas. That 3 years had gone by before I got sick again, and then it hit me, and it hit me hard. I ended up getting C. diff in the hospital.
Ooh, dang.
And this is, when I say it hit me hard, I went from being about 195 pounds to being about 135 pounds.
Yeah. That is a huge gap.
And I even, like, my wife had called the ambulance to come pick me up. I refused the paramedics. But then that night, like, I literally went into shock.
Oh
and we had to go. And then they told me, they were like, your sodium levels are like, you could have a seizure and die at any moment. And I was already so dehydrated. I'd lost like 40 or 50 pounds, like 60 pounds, whatever it was. Like, I went from like, I have a picture on my phone where my thigh is about as big as my wrist. It was just completely just bone, no muscle. So kind of like how we talked about earlier, I'd get into that a little bit. Like, that's how hard it hits your body and how fast. Like, you can go from being jacked and strong. And I remember my neighbors, they were like, one of the neighbors who we were pretty close with, he was like, the guy across the street thinks that you're on drugs, but I told him that you're fighting for your life. Because he's like, that dude's walking around all jacked one month, and the next month he's like,
Yeah, skeleton.
And they put all these IVs in my arms and stuff, and it was all bruised and stuff. So I'd get out and go to the grocery store, and people would like veer away from me because I'm like literally like dead man walk, or look like I'm a heroin addict.
Yeah.
But it's just I'm dealing with health issues, an autoimmune condition.
You were like the cursed crew of the Black Pearl, bro.
I'm not familiar with that, but
that's okay.
Okay.
I'll get you up to speed later.
Yeah.
But it's basically a zombie, a pirate zombie.
Yeah.
What you were.
That's it. I felt like a pirate zombie. So I got super sick, and then around that time is when she first started saying, like, expressing that she didn't want to be together anymore. Yeah. But we kind of worked through it or whatever, and then 2019 comes, and I got hospitalized 5 different times that year.
Damn.
Excuse me. I had C. diff again that year. It was just physically, excuse me, health-wise, the worst year of my life. And it all culminated into that year, her asking for a separation. So literally, like 2019, it was terrible for me. Most people, their 2020 was terrible. It was my 2019, and my 2020 was amazing. One of the best years of my life.
Yeah.
So, but
That fast, just
yeah,
back to back.
And the couple years before that, it's really when I started, like, putting a lot of thought. And I remember I was keeping a journal and everything, like really trying to figure out like who I am, what I mean to my kids, what I mean to my wife, the role that I play, what my goals are. Started thinking like kind of entrepreneurial. And I also had a good influence at that time. A buddy of mine, we're kind of estranged for the last few years, but he was one of the guys, like the original guys for Nikola Motors. And now I'm not sure what he's worth. I know he's pretty well off now. He's not with the company anymore. No, he's not the guy that got in all the trouble. He was like a kind of a tech sort of guy, like a problem solver, you know.
Sure.
But I mean, he just, you know, he really influenced me. He's the guy who got me listening to like the Joe Rogan podcast, or, you know, he just got me started kind of getting more business oriented and minded.
More savvy.
More savvy, yeah. So started kind of helping me realize like, hey, like what that next step of life is beyond just living paycheck to paycheck. You know, this is what it looks like to create, to solve problems, to be ambitious. And you know, they didn't have that company when I met him. They had like an alarm company, and he was installing for him. He'd be out in Pahrump and whatever. And then they started this other company where they came up with this compressed natural gas system that they would retrofit for fleet vehicles. And they built that up and they sold that. And then they built up Nikola Motors. And for those of you who don't know, it's basically a hydrogen-powered electric long haul. It's debatable for certain things with that. I'm not going to speak on if it works or don't work. From what I can tell on social media, they're trucking along. But like I said, he's no longer with the company. But he was really kind of started getting my mind in the right direction. 2018 about that.
Sure.
2019 happens, and I mean, when you're hospitalized that much, and I mean, it was just a terrible year, and really I lost sight of a lot of that because there's only so much energy and bandwidth that you have, especially when you're sick. And I'm still a father, I'm still a provider. I mean, I would get released from the hospital, go home, put on my work clothes, and go to work.
Yeah.
Like looking half dead, you know?
Sure.
Like, and I would tell people, like, look, I just got out of the hospital, so these aren't track marks or anything. That was an IV, you know? I'm just having some health issues. But like I said, I've always worked hard, you know? Or even say I had to get a blood transfusion in Las Vegas last year. Right before I got that blood transfusion, I'm closing the deal, you know?
Oh, that's right.
Or
I took your ass to the hospital.
yeah. So, or when I got back from because then I got another sickness while I was down from that, and I got back my first day back at work, and I mean, I felt like crap, but I went and closed a hat trick, closed 3 deals that day.
That's right.
Or I've gotten really sick once with JKR Windows. For those of you who don't know, that's who we work with, but I had to take 2 months off the first year I was there in 2020. So again, 2020, great year, but I got so sick I had to take 2 months off. And it was really after because I had fought so hard for my marriage, the realization that I'm not going anywhere with it. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I literally the next day started flaring again. Yeah. That turned into like, again, 195 down into the 130s. Bedridden. My mom had to come from California and take care of me. Like it was bad.
It was. That's when I met you.
Yes, you met me previous to that, so it was
like a month before.
Yeah. And when I came back, I didn't feel like I could come back, but I needed need to get around
the
environment again and get like some energy transferred to me, and that's exactly what happened. And I went out my first day, hadn't even practiced the script for 2 months, closed 2 deals and got a credit fill. And then the next day I went and closed another deal. Yeah. So they were like, well, I guess J-Rod's back. You know?
It was like clockwork.
But that's the work ethic though. Like just this innate just drive that, I mean, I've done a lot of things and a lot of produced a lot of revenue while being sick, not feeling good at all. Like being to the point where I need to be hospitalized, and I'm still closing deals.
What is it that makes you do that? What drives you?
I don't know, but it's the drive is too much. I drive too hard, and that's why I get ran off the road.
Yeah.
So that's
like
been
health-wise. You get sick.
Yeah. So that's been something I've really had to consider and dial in is like, just not going, like taking time for myself. Say
all gas, no brakes.
Yeah, all gas, no brakes.
You gotta take it off. Take off
drive fast and take risks.
Yeah.
As a guy I know likes to say.
A guy we know. Yeah,
a guy we know. But even say today for lunch, like I walked out. I got some barbecue. It's real good. I walked out of the restaurant and it was just so nice. And there's this little bike path. And even during like when I'm eating, like I try to calm down, but like I'll get texts and stuff, or I'm just like, I have to be very intentional about just relaxing. And I was like, I need to go down, walk on that bike path. There's a little stream and stuff. So I went down there. It took like 15 minutes. Went
little
down.
Zen moment.
Little Zen moment. There's like these little fishes. I saw some ducks. And it really just kind of like checked me, because I get just so wound up and so dialed in that it's like, even when I get home, I have a hard time like winding down. Unless I work 12 to 15 hours a day. If I work 8 hours in a day, like when I get home, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm still in work mode. I'm ready to go. Yeah. I'm all wired up. So
hard to defuse.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to defuse. So it's a gift and a curse, right? So it's understanding what the strength is and how to kind of manage that, because it can just push me. It pushes me too far. And some people, they can do it. Some people have what you would say the intestinal fortitude. I just don't, literally. So, but to kind of backtrack a little bit, so I started getting an idea of the path I wanted to get on, but then health kind of really hit me hard. And don't get me wrong, that could be an excuse. I could have still drove for some stuff, but just, I mean, it's like lights turn off. Yeah. Like you power down, and then you're just like on.
Well, yeah, you got to focus on what you can control, and if that sphere of control shrinks, that's you're. It sounds like the theme I'm getting from your story is you've always, in your adult life, you've been fighting for some form of survival, financial or health or relationship and emotional survival. So like that's why I think your story's rad, because of where you're at on this journey and where you've come from. But so just to kind of get back to where this kind of starts getting tied down and starting to be more relevant with, say, where the path I'm on right now, which I'm just at the very, very beginning, especially when, say, I spend last weekend in Miami for the 10X Growth Con. It's like, oh, wow. Yes.
Yeah. Small stuff I've been thinking about. But so kind of culminated. She broke up with me, and it's like, okay, well, I wanted her back, but I also knew I needed to take care of myself. And it's like, look, regardless if we get back together or not, I need to start focusing on myself and put myself in the best position to whether maybe I can attract her back. If not, then I'm in the best position to move on with my life anyway.
Yeah.
And so I started writing in my journal again. I started writing down goals again. And then I had written down, get around a group of strong, goal-oriented men.
I remember you shared that.
Specifically, I wrote that down. And I even found that the other day. And within like a week and a half, a good buddy of mine, I'll shout him out right now, Jefferson Rogers.
Yeah.
He reaches out to me, a longtime friend, and wants me to come, hey, just come down. He's like, we're having a lot of growth with the company right now. We're expanding. We're looking to get some good guys in. I know you as an extremely hard worker. Just come meet with me, man. It's like, cool. So go meet with him. And I mean, we have a heart to heart, and really just very much so on this, tuned in to the same frequency, in terms of like wanting better for ourselves, being financially okay, being like the best dad, the best whatever. Like, I mean, we were crying in that my interview, if you will.
Yeah.
Crying, And I was like, look, man, I don't know about this whole door-to-door thing, but I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
And greatest decision that I've made. It's just put me around a group, just like I needed, a group of strong-minded, goal-oriented men We've had some great women be a part of the company as well, but at this point, we currently have no female salespeople. So for those of you who think that you might want to get on with what we got,
Give it a shot.
give it a shot. But really, it started putting me on the path, and
A path to what?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
It's like a living, breathing thing.
It is.
But what would you, if you were to sum it up, what is the path?
It's to create the best version of myself,
Right.
to realize and fulfill what my potential is.
In a few aspects or in every aspect?
Every aspect.
Right. So that's, if we were to sum up those aspects, I think you'd agree, but it would be like your spirituality, your knowledge, your physical health, and maybe like your emotional health as well, and then your financial health.
Yep.
Your
And
financial
also
health
as a father.
Father, right? Yeah, and any role that you might present.
Yes.
Father, brother, sister, mother,
Family member.
maybe. It's 2022.
Yeah.
You could if you want.
Yeah.
No one's gonna say no to you.
Apparently not.
But whatever title you want to be the best.
Yeah.
The best version of yourself.
Yep.
That's the goal, right? So whatever form that takes is going to be interesting to see, but
Yeah.
in all of our lives.
And I've got a lot of perspective through the health I've gone through, especially when I got C. diff. It was a really bad situation. I was in a terrible health status, and it kills 30% of the people that get it.
Yeah.
So it's like, or just even the other stuff I've dealt with, like you have to consider your own mortality.
Yes.
And talk about perspective, because I've gone from being, like I said earlier, like an extremely physically capable person to where I can't even go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like the only thing I can really do is get up and go to the bathroom and choke down, like literally choke down using water to swallow, because my appetite is gone.
Yeah.
And I feel like my stomach is like
Tiny.
just, there's a whole, like it feels like the alien trying to crawl out. Say like my ex had 3 kids. The stomach pain she's seen me go through, she's like, it doesn't compare what I've been through. And maybe that's just her perspective.
Sure.
But
I'm not going to argue that. I've seen your pain.
Yeah.
And I would be like, I've never had a kid, but I think that would probably be worse.
And I mean, to this day, I deal with a lot of pain. I mean, I'm eating my lunch, and then I just got doubled over for about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm okay. And what's really weird is like, it's almost like 2 people. It's like, I'll forget I'm sick or I have these issues, and I'm just like living and laughing and stuff. And then the next minute you'll see me run into the bathroom.
It's like Jekyll and Hyde or whatever.
But yeah, so it's been really important to, like I said, kind of get on the path of personal development, and it adds a lot to it with dealing with the health issues I've had. Like I said, I mean, just in the last year, I've had 3 blood transfusions. I've had multiple pulmonary embolisms. They want to take my colon out. It's severe ulcerative colitis, and I'm trying to work some natural type of stuff, but there's some decisions that remain to be made, because either I can get it together with my health, or I have to make some tough decisions with westernized medicine, which I've kind of found a combination of both. But in terms of just the quality of life, like I think I have a good life. I feel good about things. Like I have great memories, things that I do, I enjoy, and I don't think about how bad I feel a lot. It's like, it's just as part of it, and I deal with it. The wave comes, it hits me, then it goes away, and then, back to business. Because what I've learned is, being bedridden for 2 months, I mean, the world's going to go, it's going to keep going. Life's going to go by. Things are going to happen. Business is going to be done. My children are going to grow up, and I can lay there in a bed feeling sorry for myself and feeling like crap. Or I can push past whatever it is I'm feeling and engage and interact with this life, because I can either be a father or not.
Yeah.
I can either, push past how terrible I feel and get up and go to work and do the best I can in building my team and mentoring these guys and going out and closing my own deals and whatever it is, and strategize in new areas. And right now I got my eyes on like 4 different states, and there's a lot that's going into it, and I mean, I give it my 100%. I give it my all. Can I do better? Probably, but I mean, I feel like I'm trying.
Exactly.
You know.
Well, let me ask you this: what other choice do you have?
I don't. In my mind, I don't have another choice.
And so, a lot of people are blind to this, and they have far less to deal with than what you've gone through, or even some of the stuff I've gone through. Like everyone's got a different set of cards.
And trust me, there's people that go through way worse than I go through.
Exactly. There's always
way
someone
worse.
who's going to have it worse than you. So, with this in mind, you mentioned perspective, right? Because I wrote this down in my journal the other day, and I might have plagiarized this from a quote, but I don't know. I haven't found it.
I used to do that writing raps. I'm like, is this
someone else's? But it just hit me like a brick wall the other day. It's like you will only become successful to the degree which you're ready to be successful. Mm-hmm. And I was like, because I've had a similar kind of arc, just tons of big peaks and valleys of ups and downs and like top of the worlds and down. And it's the perspective there is gained, and you start realizing like how not ready, how unprepared I was mentally to take an opportunity and like actually make it worth my time and to make it successful. And I'd always had a scapegoat. I always had this excuse. I always had these things that I was selling myself on. And then it takes some certain perspective for you to like see some things, you know, see the world in a certain way. And for you, it's, you know, I have the choice to live, or I could die essentially by not living. Mm-hmm. Like it's not, you're not really alive if you're just bedridden the whole time.
Yeah, it's no way to live.
Yeah, and while you still had some control, you still had a choice in the matter. Sometimes some people's situations, they don't have that choice, like you know, they're paralyzed, but there's always this much choice. And if you take that much choice and grow it, what you can control, what you can focus on, if you have your faculties in your mind, it's the most powerful thing.
It really is. You
can control a lot. You can get a lot done. And I'm sure there's some extremely inspirational stories out there of other people who were maybe paralyzed or who had some other things. But, you know, they're probably like some of the most positive people out there with worse scenarios than you. And they still choose to like control what they can control and live in the sphere that they can live in. And so, yeah, you might have some limiting factors because of your health, right?
Yeah.
But I don't see you being blocked by anything. That's what I think is why I have such a high respect for you, why I wanted you on the show. I mean, I just found out recently that I was going to be guest hosting, so thank you, Derek. But the first person I came to mind, I was like, I'm going to see Jared today. I'm going to ask him if he can do this. It's just like a no-brainer because of the bounce back factor, right? The resilience that you have in doing that. We can only control so little, but it's so powerful when we do it. It's insane.
Well, when I was at the 10X Growth Con over the weekend, Tim Story
by the way,
was talking.
If you don't know what the 10X Growth Con is, look up a guy named Grant Cardone. If you don't know who Grant Cardone is, you're doing yourself you're doing a disservice to yourself. If you're not pursuing some of these self-help gurus, and yeah, self-help books, gross. Who wants to hear some dude brag about his life? I'm telling you, just get humbled and go listen to these people. They're like the modern day prophets for this shit. So that's who Grant Cardone is. He held a huge conference about 10xing, multiplying your life and magnifying it by tenfold.
Yeah. What's your goal? Okay, 10 times that. What's your timeline? Okay, 10 times less than that. Yeah. You got 10 months for your goal. Get that done in 1 month. You know. So, and it was amazing. I mean, just the message that was delivered. Mm-hmm. And I've seen Tim Story speak before, but the line that he gave, one line that he gave, it really hit me. And I mean, I got I didn't drop a tear, but you know, I kind of blink them back a little bit. But he's like, your greatest setback will be your greatest comeback. And that just...
no wonder. That's your health, man. And dude, I can agree with that. Yeah, and I feel you're holding them back right now, dude, because it's a huge thing for you. Because especially with your upbringing, from what we just heard from you, you were like extremely athletic. Your life revolved around being a strong kid, playing football, working hard, being the badass, carrying hot rebar around, and that's taken away from you. That's painful, right? And now you're redefining who you are. You're finding more strengths. I would submit to you this: you're just as strong in every other. I'm going to emphasize some things here, so plug your ears if this offends you, listeners. But you're just as strong mentally that you were physically. You're just as fucking strong. You're still the same person, whether you have good health or bad health. Because it's you. It's you at the fucking helm. You're just as strong. You just realized your physical strength first. Your mental strength, it always comes with later in life because you got to stretch those muscles. You got to do that shit.
Just natural maturation process.
Yep. You got to mature. Your brain doesn't fully develop until you're 25. So if you're under 25, you're probably stupid.
And maybe that's for girls. I think guys, it's more like 35.
Yeah, 35. Oh. If you're a girl under 25, you're probably stupid. If you're a male under 35, you are dumb.
For sure.
Me, I am 33, so I'm still stupid.
He's working on some things, guys.
I is dumb. No, but I got to emphasize that to you, dude. Yeah, that's who you are. You are fucking strength. That's who you are. You can define things in a lot of different ways. We think of physical strength as some great feat, right, or whatever. But as you said, even the really muscly guys are usually the weakest of mind. Mm-hmm. They might not be in the gym getting that last rep or that last set. But I would say they're weak in the fact that they're chasing an endorphin. They're chasing serotonin that's released from a workout. They're addicts to it, so that's why they're in shape. But you put them in any other situation, not many people can work 100 hours in a week, full manual labor, and then come home and change a diaper.
Yep.
Not many people can do what you've done. And there are relationships and people that break to far less than what you've gone through. So this is why I wanted you on the podcast, man, because I look up to you in a lot of ways like that. And I think you know that.
Yeah. And
if I don't tell you enough, I should. But that's J-Rod. That's Jared Everett. Anything else you want to throw in there? Like a little cherry on top?
I covered a lot. And when I say I'm on the path, guys, it's trust me, I got a long way to go. I am, of course, not even a quarter of the man that I want to be, that I will be. And it's not just finances, it's everything.
Yeah.
Really, a quarter, how about a tenth? Because I'm going to 10x this thing.
Yeah, there you go.
So, or even 20x, but that's really, that's who I am in a nutshell. And I got a lot that I'm working towards, a lot of goals that I'm realizing. And for anybody that's looking for an opportunity, feel free to reach out. We can help get you on the path too.
Yeah, and we'll link your social media, or is what I like to call them, your social meds.
Social meds.
We'll get that down there. And we got to have you meet Derek, of course.
Yeah.
He runs 4 businesses. So talk about entrepreneuring.
Yep.
That guy. That's why he was on Jeff's podcast originally.
I remember. Yeah. Met him.
Well, I wanted to dive a little deeper into some sales stuff, or some personal development rather, but. So now here you are, overcoming some health stuff, and you're the regional director for Southern Utah at JKR Windows, and I work under Jared as retail sales, and we work here in the St. George
office. And an all-around badass closer.
Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah, we do a lot of good. It's life-changing stuff, this mental shift that we've been experiencing together for the last year and a half plus. And it's interesting, dude. The environment, if you're listening to this, or if you're looking for something to improve on, or you know that you have that gnawing voice in the back of your head that keeps telling you you should be doing something better with your life, or you should be pursuing something and you don't know what it is, the first step is to get in the right environment.
Absolutely.
Get in the right environment. What are you doing? What are you putting up with the people in your life? Like, what are you allowing to happen in your social circles? Look with your friends. Are you the one paying for everyone's gas and meals? Are you the one helping people out of situations? Are you trapped by the people that you love? That's one of the hardest things we can do. And I know you've done that. I mean, hell, you brought it up. You know, you needed to focus on you. Mm-hmm. It gets a point where you're surviving, you know?
And just to kind of comment on what you're talking about, for me, it's figuring out what my non-negotiables are. It's like, okay, this is the line I draw with whatever it is, with this relationship, say with my father, or future relationships, say if I end up getting married again, or whatever it is. Certain non-negotiables, and obviously relationships take a lot of compromise, but there's things that I need to protect myself, who I am, where I'm going, and that I won't negotiate on. And if you can't be a compliment to me and where I'm going, and you cross that line of what my non-negotiables are, then maybe we're just not the right fit.
Right.
It doesn't mean I love you any less, but in terms of where I'm going, you know, you got to cut the fat a little bit.
Yeah.
And something I did in my marriage, the hugest mistake I made, but also how do I know unless I reflect on it, is I didn't have any non-negotiables. Basically, I conceded and
Yes.
conceded and conceded and every time I conceded, a little piece of me was taken away, to the point, like I said, I was a blob of my former self, or what my future self is, because I didn't stand my ground.
Yeah.
You know?
It's really hard if the upbringing that you've had, or mine was the inverse of yours. I was around successful people. My parents were middle class, great family, excellent childhood, but I had this sense of entitlement, and it wasn't outwardly noticeable that, like, hey, that's an entitled little prick of a kid, but I was good at sports. I was good at everything I touched. I was good at being righteous in my religion. I was good at everything. So I got praised so much to a point where it affected me negatively years later. The environment that you grow up in, like even mine, even though it was the inverse of yours as far as, like, you know, adversity, it was just packaged differently. I didn't know that those things I was craving, the validation of others and me being a good boy, was like going to mess me up in certain ways that would make me avoid opportunities and be entitled in my own mind. And same thing with yours. Like, you probably didn't have the wherewithal to just all of a sudden start being self-disciplined in certain areas. It's usually an external force that teaches you how to be disciplined. So that's why your environment is so important. Mm-hmm. That's why, like, for me, it was the military that really gave me this discipline. But for years, I had to be in that environment to turn it on. Oh, a team needs me. Like, oh, I'm handling a weapon. Like, I got some stuff here that I got to do, and people are relying on me. I'm the most disciplined dude out there. Like, no compromises. But when I get by myself, I'm a shit show, you know? I can't manage my finances. I don't know anything. You know, I'm out there living paycheck to paycheck, doing all sorts of stuff. Like, so that's where, same thing with you, just on a different spectrum, is like, nobody just starts becoming disciplined, like, fully on their own, just out of nowhere. And if you do, you might have the desire to, and you might have, like, the ability to start being disciplined. But if you're not stronger than your environment, you won't succeed. Mm-hmm. So usually the first step is to get out of that environment and cut ties. Protect yourself, those non-negotiables. And then once you're in that environment will then enable you to do the non-negotiables with yourself. Like, what's a non-negotiable for you within a group of friends?
That's a hard one. I would say just like negativity.
Right.
Like I don't have time, or just talking about a bunch of random life problems that they set themselves up for. Like, oh, I'm having trouble with like paying my bills, or I'm having trouble with this, and it's just like, man, I don't have time for, like, hey, are you open to, some a little bit of coaching?
Are you open for the solution?
Are you open for the solution? But it's people that,
no, I just want to complain about it.
Yeah, they want to complain about it, and hey, I'm all there to help you. Maybe if you're like my spouse or significant other, yeah, it's my job sometimes just to listen, not to try to fix everything.
Yeah.
But that's a completely different situation than a set of friends.
Right.
And that's a non-negotiable that I have, is just, hey, I don't have time for negativity. If you're going to talk about your problems, then what are we doing to solve them? If not, then why are we talking about it?
Right.
And
so if I was like going to be your friend, right? Like what happened when I got hired by you was like, I had to be in your environment that Jeff Rogers has created, that JKR Windows has. And there's plenty of other environments out here that people can find that do have these non-negotiables. What is it? You be on time. You work the hours. No negativity. Like, you always do your best, and you contribute to the team. Like, those are our 5 non-negotiables.
Mm-hmm. Team expectations.
Team expectations. And that environment lifted me up. And then I realized, hey, why do I need a team all the time to do this? This feels very at home with me, because like when I was in the Marines, there's a lot of non-negotiables. Like, you don't fuck up, you do your job, like you run fast, you do this. There's a lot of non-negotiables. But then when I was by myself, I didn't have any self. I wasn't giving non-negotiables to myself. It was just like I was like the Wild West. I was just out here doing whatever the hell I wanted.
Shooting from the hip.
I'm like, I think I'll play 8 hours of video games today. Oh, yeah, I could do that work tomorrow. Oh, I don't need to get paid. Like, I've made enough money. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was the worst negotiator for myself. I was just, that's fine. Like, let's get on the phones here and ask the other half of Blake's personality. Yeah, that checks out. Yeah, you can definitely have 5 Twinkies. Go ahead. Ha ha ha. Cool. Thanks, man.
And then you just...
Yeah, you want to drink an entire bottle of whiskey by yourself? Yeah, go ahead. Do we need to negotiate that? No, it's negotiable. Do it. Wait, shouldn't it be non-negotiable? I don't know. We're not using negotiable right. So just drink it. It just didn't make sense. So the first step, I think, for 90% of people is to get out of a certain environment and into another one that propagates or that encourages you to be the person you want to be. So it's like how the general, I got to back up the mic, how the general person, I mean, obviously we're going to say, come work for us and we'll get you in that environment if you live in the southern Utah area. But like, what are some things people can do? Maybe someone's upstate, maybe someone's out of state.
Yeah, I mean, you could always, like, a mentor. It's obviously something you can do. Now, if you can't afford a mentor or just one's not accessible, then you have podcasts, you have books, things like this. And also, really just take the time, stop scrolling, get out your notepad, and start really figuring out what it is you want, kind of who you are. What are your goals? Okay, write them down. I write my goals down every day. And every time I write my goals down, it comes in clearer on, like, what I need to do to achieve the goals. Like, I'm tuning in to that frequency and getting on the path towards those. Yeah. And it's like a reinforcement. Every time I write my goals down, it's a reinforcement. And then it becomes a belief. And if you can see yourself doing it, guess what? You put a little bit of work behind it, and then it manifests itself.
Do you think...
and that's what's really helped me in terms of kind of getting on the path, is just taking the time to start getting the ideas out of my head, because stuff will just bounce around in your head. Oh, I need to do this. Boom. You did next thought, next scroll. I mean, instant gratification. That's what we live in.
On to the next thing.
Yeah. So slow it down. Take some time. Be intentional about it. And really start figuring out who it is that you are, what it is that you want, and start writing that stuff down and start working towards it. And the days are going to pass. I remember when I was in high school, my math class said time's going to pass. Will you?
Yeah.
So the time's going to pass anyway. You might as well get some stuff done. I mean, you could spend the next year thinking about what your goals are and thinking about maybe this is be cool, or maybe I want to do this, or you can get intentional. You can start writing it down. You can get it in front of you. You can take it beyond that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know people that they write their goals down as if it's already happened. I have a $200 million a year company.
Yeah.
I am so grateful because I have built an awesome, amazing team that has helped me to get there. I have changed this many lives. Like, so when they write their goals down, it's as if it's already happened.
It's like a positive affirmation.
Yeah, it's like a positive affirmation that is your goal.
Yeah.
And that's something I want to try. After the 10X Growth Con, we had to sit down, just what our feedback is on stuff and what we got from it, and just kind of had a jam session on it. And that was one thing I learned with how, say, Jefferson does his goals, is he does it as if, and he's writing like half a page on how it looks, how that goal looks, and as if that is like what is right now.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's I would say that's an advanced skill.
Yeah, he's been
good.
He's been dialed in for some years now.
Yeah.
And
but if he were to start that on day one, when he's trying to change his life, our boss has a fantastic story as well. But if he was on day one, like, that would probably be really hard to do.
I think it would.
Intimidating, right?
I think it would. And he started with bullet points.
Yeah.
Started with just bullet
Small
points. Small wins,
Ding, ding,
and
ding.
then it's evolved into that's how he does his goals now. And he's not writing down 10. He's just writing down a couple goals.
Massive goals, though.
Massive. Yeah, these are massive
Huge
goals. And, everything it takes to get to there, it's, you visualize it, you tune yourself in, you build the team, you work towards it, and guess what? The time's going to pass. You did all the work that you needed to do to get there, and then realize then the goal's realized.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, well,
he sets another one.
billion or whatever it is. But so that's he's further on on the path than a lot of people. But there's, like I said, going to the 10X Growth Con, I mean, you got guys that are speaking to us, like the CEO of Goldman and Sachs.
Yeah. Big hitters.
Yeah, these guys are just one guy. Grant called him up on stage because he had this really colorful looking outfit. And Grant was under the impression the dude owned 97 gyms. So the dude's like, no, it's 397. Grant's like, whoa. Grant's like, how much revenue did you do last year? The guy's like, $1 billion. And that's just a random dude. Like,
At his conference.
So it's like, when I'm over here, I'm writing down, okay, be worth 20 million. Be worth 20 million. Be worth 20 million every day. And then all of a sudden, like, 20 million sounds like chump change to these people. So, it's really put me in a position where I'm kind of going back to the drawing board and really trying to focus on, okay, where are my goals? Mm-hmm. Why am I selling myself short? Am I selling myself short? Just getting in the mindset of, like, what it looks like to 10X is like where I'm at.
Yeah.
So and I say only, but say if I 10X what my writing down 20 million every day, I mean, 10X that's 200 million.
Yeah.
And then that right now, I mean, just when people are talking billion, there's guys there that, I'm worth 10 billion, pull them up on stage talking and things. Then it's like, man, my goals are really small. Like,
yeah.
And I start to realize, say like back on the football field when we're stretching, and these guys are talking nonchalantly about, oh yeah, no, I barely have to go to school. I'm going to college. Just like, it's just nothing. And I'm like, what is so good about this? How is this person so much better than me that they can achieve so much more? They're really not. It's just that I need to focus on what it took to get there, or what it takes to get there, and start doing it, because I don't care who
You're fully
it is
capable.
Fully capable. I don't care who it is on that stage. If I put my mind to it, I can be just as successful as they can.
You can wear a colorful suit and go on a stage.
Yeah.
And talk about that too.
Yeah.
And would you say your mindset wasn't able to even fathom that until you got into a different environment?
Exactly. And that's why it's important to figure out, to put yourself, find a seat at the table. How do you get yourself in the room? You know, and hey, I can make $20 million in the next, because it's like, hey, the next 10 years, I want to make $20 million. Now I'm considering, okay, well, what does it look like if because it's going to take a bunch of work anyway. Yeah. And guys, guess what I'm really good at? Working. So I just, okay, well, how do I game plan this? How do I put myself in the...
It's got to be the right work, though.
Yeah, it's got to be the right work. And in figuring out how to do that right work, I have to get myself around people that know how to do that.
Yes.
I have to. It's proximity to power, and sometimes you have to pay for it. That's a big reason why Jefferson's had so much success and has covered so much ground in such a short amount of time. That guy's invested like $500,000 into his personal development.
He's all about his environment.
Yeah.
He's not going to surround himself with a guy who works at Subway.
No.
Because I still have friends that are working at a Subway or like whatever. And that's fine. They're happy. But it's like if you never go rub shoulders with anybody bigger than you, of course you'll be. Is that really happiness, though?
Yeah.
When you're reaching a ceiling or, you could be doing more? It's not. It's interesting. So it's like step one, get out of your current environment and find a better one. Step two, build yourself, because that environment will let it happen. It will nurture your build. Because if you're trying to build yourself and you're in an environment like, if you're trying to like repair your car but you're underwater, you probably should get the car out of the water. Mm-hmm. And then you should be able to fix it in the garage, or you can't start a fire underwater. You need to change your environment. So you go up onto the shore.
The right environment and the right tools.
Exactly. So that's the thing. If you're wherever you are in the journey, it's like you got to set that up first as your foundation, and it's going to be painful. You got to cut people out of your life, or sometimes they choose to leave your life with a divorce. Right? I've experienced that too. If anyone's out there experiencing that, like there is always a positive to every negative that happens to you. Everything is an opportunity if you so choose. And like you and I have talked in depth about that, but we are where we are. And I think we're in the correct environment with our company, and we have the correct vessel to drive forward our success. And now you're rubbing shoulders with billionaires. I'm kind of jealous. I wanted to go there, but so you got to set these things up. Right, so if you're listening to this, that's the step-by-step. Get a new environment, and then work on yourself, and just establish those non-negotiables. What's non-negotiable? And then set those in stone, and then maybe make some more adjustments. Like for us, we do have the right product to sell. We are in the right profession. Sales is the highest paid profession in the entire world, and you're already selling people on stuff. If you have a political opinion, if you have an opinion about the new Batman movie, if you have this stuff, anything that you voice an opinion to, any plans that you want to have executed on, you're already in sales. So go do a sales job or something that's going to pay you enough money.
You woke up this morning, you're in sales.
You woke up this morning, you breathed,
you got to sell yourself just to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's a good point.
And
that's a good one.
And something that I want to kind of a concept that I've grown to understand is it's important to try to be the low man on the totem pole. Not for a lack of effort, but it's like, okay. So I say for my group of friends as a teenager, I was top dog. What's up? But I was the best of the average group of friends. What's good with that?
Yeah.
So figure out how to get into a room or a group of people where everybody is levels above you. And what's going to happen is you get around, say that the average of 5 people is, say if you hang out with 5 people that are millionaires, you're going to be the 6th millionaire. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, there's become the low man on the millionaire totem pole. And then it's like, you know what? I want to be worth tens of millions. Okay. Well, I got to get in a group of people that are worth that. Okay. Well, now I need to be worth hundreds of millions. Now I need to be worth billions of dollars. So, that's kind of a concept that I've it's probably other people talk about it, but it's something that I've kind of realized myself is like, okay, how do I'll go through the ranks of a group, say for JKR Windows, and Jeff, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, but, I've really, there's not any higher I can go. You have
not within the company,
yeah.
But with your growth. This environment will allow you to grow unlimited.
Exactly. But say like within the role that I have, I've pretty much capped out and got to the top of got to not ceiling financially, but in terms of like my position in the company.
Sure.
And when I started, and up until very recently, the position that I'm in is right underneath the owner. We've since promoted Justin, and rightfully so, to VP of Sales. So that's, basically
You're capped.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Now, I'm not capped in finances. Like, the more I build my teams, the more revenue. I mean, like right now we're sitting at a record month.
Yeah.
And so the more of those record months I string together, we build out these different offices. I mean, it's going to be very lucrative for me to do that.
Yeah. Well, even within our company, you can rank up all the way, you can progress, but we're still just a limited group of people. We need outside inspiration.
Yeah.
We need to rub some bigger shoulders. That's why you go to 10X.
Exactly. So it's like, so like, hey, in the group that I'm in, so I've rose through the ranks. I started out knocking doors, never knocked a door in my life. Now, so it's like, okay, and that's one of the things I'm trying to realize right now is like, what's the next group that I need to associate myself with? Like, what is it that, okay, I want to be in real estate, like start investing in real estate. Well, I better start rubbing shoulders with some guys that have the experience, the know-how, that I can pick their brain. Yeah. I can start getting, within that group, work my way up through the ranks until, like I said, like, okay, well, I'm in the $1 million, $1 to $10 million group. I'm in the $10 to $100 million group.
Sure.
I'm in, and just keep leveling up and, And
you can do this with anything.
Yeah.
Exactly. You want to write a book? You should probably go make some friends with people who have written books. Mm-hmm. And then, if you're the sixth man in the group that hasn't written a book, but all 5 of them have, like you said, you'll be the sixth guy that writes a book.
You'll be the sixth published author.
Exactly. Like it's anything. You want to be the top video gamer? Like you probably should start playing with the top guys. Because if you're playing with your rinky-dink friends that eat Doritos in the microphone, while their mom screams at them, like you're not going to be the top gamer.
Yeah. I mean, maybe amongst that group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want to, like I've left multiple friends group. I'm really bad at retaining friends. I don't know what it is. Unless I served with them in the military. That's different, though. But, I started cutting people out. I think I'm good at that to a fault. But I cut people out. It's like, hey, you helped me out. We hung out. We had great times after the divorce. But I want more, and you don't. And so I'm sick of paying rent for you. I'm sick of cleaning up after you. So bye. Mm-hmm. And we have a couple employees that just started, and they're doing that. Shout out to I don't know if I should say his name on here, but I guess why would I not? But Carter,
what up?
I guess I'm not gonna say your last name. Carter, he knows what's up. But he's a perfect example. The dude grew up broken family like you, history with drugs, alcohol, just cold turkey quit, got rid of his addictions. And he kicked all his roommates out because they weren't in line with his vision. Mm-hmm. He set up all these things. Broke up with his girl, cleared his head, and he started focusing on his non-negotiables because he got with us, changed the environment. And it was rough for him. He got a few sales, right, over a month, 2 months?
About 2 months, 5 total. 4 first month, 1 the second month.
And then he just started putting into practice what we're saying, and he's like, screw this. And he just cut everything out. Boom, boom, boom. And then he ties the record for the most sales in 1 week. Mm-hmm. He probably made, $5,000 in his pocket.
For that week.
In 1 week. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. That's a great example of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
100%. So.
And it's amazing how being intentional, how fast stuff can happen. So literally. He was... that Monday that Monday, that week that he got 7 sales, he texted me that morning. He's like, look, man, I'm not sure how to pay my bills or anything. Cause he didn't have a sale that week before. He had no check coming. Yeah. And, it seemed like he was kind of hinting at like maybe he wanted a loan or something, which I've made that's a non-negotiable. I don't loan these guys money. They need to.
You used to.
I used to, and
it weakens.
I got about $3,000 that's owed to me, and those guys don't even work with the company anymore.
Yeah.
So you see how that goes. So I told him,
It's
look,
a new
man,
non-negotiable. You write that shit down.
Non-negotiable. But so I told him, look, man, the best advice I can give you: get intentional. Go out there with the purpose. You're going to go out there. You're going to set a same day. It's going to close, and you're going to have a check next week. And he's like, hell yeah. No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. What did he do?
He did it.
He did it. And then he followed it up with 6 more sales that week. Mm-hmm. And I think he just got paid last weekend. And now it's like he's not worried about his money anymore. And guess what? He's gotten more sales since. He made just $1,000 today he did a same day. Got a gift card on top of it. And then his next sale, if he can get one by the end of the day tomorrow, that's in that 10 sale bracket.
And this kid has never, like he worked at T-Mobile before. Mm-hmm. Like if you call that sales, I guess it is to a point. But, but the point is you don't have to be a guru to do these things. It's just simple principles that you live by. And it's the willingness. Carter has some balls. He's got a backbone. And he learned some valuable lessons. He cut out all that dead weight, and then he realized how fast he could run. He's like, holy shit. So that's why my respect for Carter's gone through the roof.
Yep.
It's such a simple thing to do, but it takes so much
It's like Forrest Gump when the leg braces come off when he's running.
Johnny. Yeah, he runs, and he's fast.
But yeah, it's awesome to be a part of just even if it's a small part, large part. I know I had a role in that, but we all did. You did, Joel did.
Joel.
And it all starts with the leadership at the top, and shit's gonna run downhill whether it's good or bad. So you might as well get some good shit running down. I mean, hey, I'm a turd, but I'm a polished turd.
Hey, yeah, I'm a sparkle.
Yeah. So like you ate some glitter or something.
Yeah. They actually have something like that you can eat. You can eat these glitter pills that make your shit sparkle, dog. Mm-hmm. That's what we are. But yeah, that's a great note to tie up to. I mean, for another time, it would be leadership we could talk about because that environment to us that our company has, that other companies, places, that other things do, that environment is so crucial to maintain. That's why you don't let every schmuck off the street into the group.
You got to protect the culture.
And then you don't let anybody just be a leader out of nowhere. Like, they have to qualify. Mm-hmm. There has to be rules and guidelines for that because you have to protect that culture, that environment, your ethos. There's a lot of names for it. But it enables people to grow. It gives them that foundation that they can match and bounce their discipline off the wall like they're playing wall ball. And, like, you got to have a firm wall to play wall ball on. Mm-hmm. You got to have an environment that's reinforcing what you're doing. So that's crucial. But and then it also comes down to your intention because I've been in some really strong groups and we've seen this time and time again. People come in and they don't have any intention to do the work.
Yeah, they don't fully commit, and
they just expect it.
It's so obvious every day.
It is
in every way.
It is. And we still run into that people. Sometimes we lose. Some people have high intentions and they're successful and then they lose it. Mm-hmm. And their intentions. So, and I've been preaching on intentions for the whole time I've been here. Like when I walk down a street, because we do a lot of door to door. So it's like, am I just knocking doors? No, I'm intending to get a sale. I'm intending to find somebody that wants my product.
Yep. There's
a difference.
There's someone in that neighborhood that's going to get windows.
Yeah, and I intend to find that guy.
You intend to find him.
And like I look at the times and I'm like, okay, I'd do this with you. I'd be like, Jared, he has a 3 o'clock today. Here it is, 11 a.m. I'm like, I intend to fill that 3 p.m. on this street. And it just happens. Mm-hmm. And it's like the most powerful thing. If you have the right intentions, you will do those things. Like same thing with your high school story, dude. You're there. You had the intention to graduate. Did you know all the answers yet? No. Did you have a loose plan? Yeah, maybe. But you're like, I just don't know how this is going to work. But that guy saw your clear intentions. He saw your actions lined up with your intentions. And he sat you down in the office. You guys bullshitted, and he just clickety-clicked. Mm-hmm. And so your intentions came to fruition, right? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And that can, really, just get on the path. It's amazing the opportunities that will present themselves. Especially you go to these conferences. You know, I've been to different conferences, and people will approach you to see what you're about and how it is that maybe you guys can connect and do business.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, they literally sorry. They approach you to see, like, opportunities are just coming at you because you put yourself in the room. Now, whether or not you're ready for those opportunities, that's up to you. But they're there. It's just a matter of, I mean, luck. It's a combination of opportunity, meeting preparedness, and you can call it luck all day, but it's the guys that are ready for the opportunity. They see the opportunity. They take advantage of the opportunity. And then guess what? On to the next one. On to the next one. You stack them up.
Yes. And you'll only be successful to the level that you're ready. Mm-hmm. So if you're not ready, what are you doing to get ready? Are you reading books? Are you trying to grow? Are you journaling? Are you writing stuff down? What are your intentions? Do you even intend to do something? You know, it's like, these are all questions that here I am in my 30s and I'm just figuring this out. It's like, what would have happened if I had chosen different careers or stuck with some great opportunities that had great environments that I was totally aloof to? I was like, oh, it's not what I want, so whatever. Because I'm out chasing whatever that's dumb, dude. Like, it's hard to put into words, but I think a lot of people can relate to that. Just kind of wishy-washy going through the motions. So, well, cool, man. We covered a lot of good stuff. We're probably approaching 2 hours here, so I think we'll wrap it up. But, dude, pleasure talking to you, man. Like,
absolutely,
as always,
likewise.
homie. Like, you're my bro.
Yep.
Yeah, and I feel like
Love
I've
you, Blake.
known you for a long time, but we're not even at 2 years, dude.
Dude, I remember, like, the first conversation we had when you first came into the office and we started kind of talking about our exes and things.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just...
Oh, yeah, we talked for like 4 hours.
And don't get it wrong, guys. Blake and I have butted some heads. We've had some difficult conversations. We've cried. Like, we've gone there and we've come back.
Oh, dude.
And, I mean, it's iron sharpens iron. It's like, if you're not willing to get uncomfortable, especially with someone, like, I deal with Blake every day. I need to be on the same page with him. If we're not going to always see eye to eye, but we're going to work it out.
No,
and
absolutely.
I've learned a lot about leadership from you.
Oh, thanks, dude.
And because of you.
Oh, thanks, man.
You've really driven me to like look inward and what can I do better? Like, how can I be the best version of myself, like, leader-wise? You know, obviously I'm looking to be best version up, but I would say out of anybody, just the conversations we've had, the issues that we've had, it's caused me to really look inward and dial this thing in, because...
Well, that's the same. I could say the same about you. I've piggybacked a lot of your skills off of you, especially with closing deals, dude. So thank you for that. But
they ain't gonna close themselves.
Yeah, they ain't gonna do it. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, you were talking about that being the lowest person on the totem pole, and I had some opportunities in the military and doing some contracting where I was permanently that guy, just because I didn't have the track record of some of these SEALs or other operators in high tier special forces. And I was privy to be there. I had the privilege to be there. I was kind of there by accident, and then they somehow kept me around. I still to this day don't know why I was there, but those lessons I learned were priceless, and I'm very, very far from any.
It's got to be the trust factor.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but yeah, that's the best place to be, is if you're surrounded by greatness. You have no choice but to go up, or you could cower and run away.
Yep.
But if you're compelled, if you have any ounce of anything compelling you in your life, then you almost don't have a choice. You're obligated.
Yeah, and that's
to achieve.
And that's something that Grant Cardone says is you're obligated for success. You're obligated to succeed.
Yeah, and it's like, do you find yourself getting frustrated when you see people you love or people you know refute that?
Yeah. I have my sister she stays with me, and it don't matter how the approach is when I'm trying to help her out and like think bigger and realize things. And she's another one that's like, oh, I can never sell. She talks more than anybody. Like, we have like code words and stuff, like safe words when she's talking too much or when she's repeating herself. It's Peaches. It's like, hey, Peaches,
Yeah.
Just, like that lets her know, hey, I've already told the story probably 3 times, and I'm just talking. But she gets in trouble for talking at work. She gets in trouble for talking, or because she lives with me right now, and like she's always talking so loud and stuff. And I'm like, hey, you ain't got to yell. Like,
Hey, Peaches, yo.
but it's like that's what she does. That's what she's the best at. And guess what sells for the most part is
It's just
we're
talking.
We're talking. I'm like, you could change. Like you have these money issues, you have these issues, or these physical issues because she has a physical labor type job, and it's like you could solve all of these your money problems, your health problems, and all you got to do is do what you do best and talk.
And talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's also an art too in sales of not talking.
That's
At
my
the
favorite
right time.
part. It's that uncomfortable when whatever it is, you lay it all out, and then you just shut up. And you let them get uncomfortable, and they're like, that's my favorite part, because I mean it's a muscle that you build, because that's what people avoid with sales is getting uncomfortable, right? But you're not closing if you're not getting uncomfortable, and that silence means money. When I shut up, it's because I'm waiting for my money. I get it. That's me waiting patiently for my money, because that's
And it's
they
like
talk themselves into it.
in any peep you make during that window, your likelihood of getting the money goes down.
And I had to learn it because I was in phone sales before, and
It's harder in phone sales.
yeah, there you don't really. I mean, it was against quality assurance. You couldn't have, like the QA, you couldn't have moments of silence.
I know. That's like the biggest downfall, I think, to a phone sales guy.
So I
That's a
had
good
to,
point, dude.
I had to kind of learn that. But yeah, that's my absolute favorite part, because it's the most uncomfortable part, but it's the part that means the most.
Yeah.
You know. But hey, I really appreciate you bringing me on here.
Yeah, man.
Derek Legg, I have not met you. I'm sure I will soon. I appreciate you having me on your podcast. And, look out for some projects Blake and I got going on.
Yeah.
Because some of our time is freed up like it wasn't in the past. And
Yeah, we've thought about doing this for a while.
oh, yeah.
So thank you for letting us commandeer your podcast to test it out. This is a test run. So
Yep.
real quick, before we sign off, what's a book you're reading right now that you'd recommend to the audience?
Okay, so I just finished the 4 Agreements. I just finished the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I'm currently reading the 5 Love Languages. I'm almost done with that. I am single, however, with having a failed marriage, and I've had the book for like 2 years, and it's just sitting there on my shelf. I'm like, okay, I'm going to start reading it. So I'm almost done with that. 2 books on deck. 1 for audio. Usually I'm working on an audio book and a paperback book. So I'm going to be listening to, I've already read it, but the audio version of Outwitting the Devil, and then the written version or paperback of Think and Grow Rich.
They're both right behind you.
They're both
on
right
that
behind
shelf.
me. Yeah.
And I've read Outwitting the Devil thrice. Thrice I've outwitted the devil.
The copy I have you gave me.
I did. That's right. Yeah, I got some notes in there too. One of my favorite books of all time. But yeah, I'm finally reading Think and Grow Rich. So
Yeah.
but yeah, just scroll back a couple seconds if you want to hear those again. That's the beauty of YouTube and Spotify and whatever platform you're listening on. So that's it. So that one's in the books. I don't know what episode number we're on, but another Derek Legg podcast episode
40.
in the book. 40? Holy
Wow.
smokes. 40. Well, anyway, Jared, pleasure.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, always, dude. And I'll see you tomorrow at work.
See you tomorrow. Yep.
All right, this has been the Derek Legg podcast. I'm Blake, just filling in for him. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. And love, peace, and hair grease.